as we'll start seeing today, Paul's reasons don't sound exactly like some of our reasons. For one thing, Paul's reasons for rejoicing will prove true no matter what. No matter what happens, whether he lives or he dies, whether he gets out of prison or he does not, whether situations go as desired or they don't. Paul's commitment to rejoice was steadfast, was sure, and it was rooted in knowledge, in real knowledge, not in possible outcomes like, I hope this will work out, not in uncircumstances, but the section shows Paul's preparation to rejoice no matter what. He did know one outcome, one product, one thing that he was convinced of, and that was giving him a reason for rejoicing. And that outcome, he says, was his deliverance. He was sure, he was certain of his deliverance. What kind of deliverance was he so certain of? If it wasn't freedom from imprisonment, well, was this something Paul knew, that he had a special revelation from God to him as an apostle? Or is this something that we can know? That we can know too? Really, to glean from Paul's reason for rejoicing, we need to know what he knew. And we need to know if we can know what he knew. And so our first point of application from this text this morning is that we need to understand the meaning of deliverance. We need to understand the meaning of this deliverance. Point number one, perspective number one, way number one to prepare to rejoice no matter what is this. Number one, understand the meaning of deliverance. There's never a doubt. There's never a doubt that God is working deliverance to free us from our sin in our present circumstances and experiences. As He sanctifies us, the sin in us, God will do that no matter what. There's never a doubt that God will work our final deliverance. He's going to free us from false accusations, from mischaracterizations, from sinful perspectives where we've been upright and yet been mistreated. God will do that no matter what. And there's never, ever a doubt that God will work deliverance to free us from sin's power and practice so thoroughly that He keeps us, that He endures us, that He preserves us and perseveres us from falling away until the end when He takes us to glory. God will do that no matter what. Understand that meaning of deliverance and rejoice because you know God will work all things for your deliverance in those glorious spiritual ways, and He will do so no matter what. But as you soak in that meaning of deliverance, be sure that it does not mean that you can coast then, that you can check out, that you can passively do nothing while supposedly trusting God to keep His word. No, that's not how faith works. Faith trusts God to keep His word by actually using what His word says He'll use. That God will work through the means that He said He would use. And so secondly, from verse 19, we want to understand the means of deliverance. Understand the means of deliverance. To pursue rejoicing in this way, understand the meaning of deliverance, number one, and understand the means of deliverance. And by means, it is the means are the methods. That is the processes, the ways, the channels for deliverance, the tools, the instruments, the agencies toward deliverance that He uses. So Paul knew his spiritual deliverance was sure, and yet he also depended on the processes and the people, the means that God had ordained for that deliverance. He was relying fully on the loving promises of the Spirit's help, while also leaning into the loving arms of brothers and sisters who would lift him up. We can look ahead and rejoice no matter what when we understand, one, the meaning of deliverance, and two, the means of deliverance. And to dig deeper into those desires for the kind of deliverance that we've defined, we need to understand, thirdly, the motives of deliverance. That's point number 3 today. To thrust our souls forward, you might say, with readiness to rejoice, we must understand, number 3, the motives of deliverance. the motives that Paul described in verse 20 that compelled him to look forward with eager joy. So whether by life or by death, whether by diligent work or difficult suffering, whether by present friendships or painful hardships, whether we face death or life, good or bad, whatever it is, make exalting Christ in everything central. And as you do, you can rejoice no matter what. You can rejoice as we understand the meaning of deliverance, the means of deliverance, and the motives of deliverance. And then remember this summary statement of these things that appears in verse 21. Read verse 21 again. He says, "For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." Fourth and last point today, we'll cover more next week. Simply note, we must understand the meaning of life and death. We must understand the meaning of life and death. We get that meaning from this little summary statement in Philippians 1:21 that we'll unpack more next week. To live is Christ, to die is gain.